Okay, so you want to lose weight, but despite your best efforts, nothing seems to work. Now, today I'm going to talk you through the most effective ways that you can change your eating habits, get the weight off, and most importantly, keep it off. Hi, Leslie Hornsby here. Welcome to my channel where I offer help through life coaching so that you can learn better communication skills, you can use NLP techniques with all the goals that you want to try and achieve to lead a better, more fulfilled life by taking charge of your thinking, your emotions, and of course your behaviour. And if you'd like to know more, just click subscribe and you can get future videos on a regular basis. And if you think you would like to have a go at life coaching on a one-to-one, I'm happy to talk things through with you. It will be just a case of using the link that I've added below and you'll be able to make an obligation-free telephone appointment with me. So let's begin then by looking at how you can begin to eat a bit more healthily. Now, there's no denying that making this sort of thing happen can be challenging. So the first thing I'm going to advise you to do is to just take things easy on yourself. Reduce the pressure that you put on yourself. Usually at the point of promising yourself you're going to overhaul your life, you feel strong and you're determined. But then a week or two goes by and suddenly your resolve has faltered, and before you know it, you're back where you started. There's no two ways about it. Change is hard, and it's even harder to maintain. And frankly, lapses for most of us are inevitable. Now, to overcome this sort of habitual failure, you have to stop aiming for perfection, setting unattainable goals that generally just do result in failure. First off then, is ditch the extreme diets and the quick fixes. We're really good at resisting change, and if it is too jarring, you're not going to be able to sustain it. So rather than a sort of all-in attitude, make your changes gradually, accept that you're going to falter here and there. But one slip doesn't mean you give up. Recognizing the things that cause you to lapse and concentrate on long-term, consistent behavior is the way to go. We human beings, we like our routine, we find comfort in it. And once an activity or behaviour becomes habitual, you're going to find it, you'll be able to remain consistent. And eventually, whatever change you are making, it stops becoming something different and just becomes part of your life. It's also very tempting to want to weigh yourself every single day, whip out the tape measure and obsessively check your waistline. And I've been there, believe me. However, sustainable weight loss, it really should be gradual. So if you are going to do it right, you're not going to see a massive change on a daily basis. So with that in mind, try weighing yourself once a week. When you decide on your target weight, don't calculate with your heart, calculate with your head. What I mean by that is check what a healthy weight should be for you personally by using something like a BMI calculator. And I've added a link below for you to use so that you can see where you stand in that range. BMI uses your height and weight to work out if you're a healthy weight, whether you're underweight or overweight. Just be aware that your BMI result is not the perfect measure for your overall health, and it can't tell, say, if you're carrying too much fat or if you've got a lot of muscle. Use your BMI result just as a starting point. Now, a big contributor to struggling with diets is, what you eat can be emotionally loaded as an issue for you. For many of us, we feel our weight is very closely associated with how we view ourselves, our level of attractiveness and self-worth. So don't get too preoccupied with achieving an ideal BMI either. If you reduce your weight by, say, just 10%, it can still significantly benefit your health. Another useful tool when changing your eating habits, and try to avoid calling it a diet because that tends to have negative connotations and imply a short-term change. So one of the things that you want to do is to keep a food diary, and this can be helpful in sustaining you and help you stick to your plan. And if you're getting positive results, don't measure your success or failure on whether you've lost a specific amount of weight per week. Just seeing a downward trend over time is what really matters. How long it takes is much less important. Now, if you're only losing, say, less than the recommended 0.5 of a kilogram or 1 to 2 pounds a week, that is still a win. If you shed, say, 250 grams, which is half a pound for those in metric, not in metric, it might not seem much, but if you sustain that trend in a year, you're going to be around 13 kilograms lighter. That's 2 stone. And remember, your body will be benefiting in other ways, so don't get disheartened and just give up. Eating more healthily can also do things like lower cholesterol, blood pressure, Improve your blood sugar control if you have diabetes, for example. Bear in mind that our eating habits evolve over time, so making big changes is going to be counterproductive and will even end up being harder to sustain. So, for example, when you go on holiday, that's the time it's easy for us to fall back into old habits. One of the best ways you can change how you eat is portion control. So, for example, when you cook, use a spoon to measure the oil or a spray rather than just pouring it straight into the pan. Small tweaks is the key that require very little effort. So switch to low-fat milk instead of whole milk, sugar-free versions of drinks, unsaturated fat instead of butter or ghee, and use smaller plates or bowls to help you reduce your portion sizes. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I was taught that I had to finish everything on my plate, and that's understandable. But of course, now it's behaviour that you probably want to try and resist. You're going to limit your portion sizes, but also don't feel you've got to finish your plate. And if you're fond of fizzy drinks, look for alternatives, preferably a natural juice. But one thing I would say is don't be fooled into thinking because you've switched to something natural like orange juice that you can consume as much as you like. A lot of fruit has naturally high sugar content, so try and be cautious. Now, personally, I also avoid buying foods that I know I shouldn't be eating, and that way I don't really have to struggle with willpower because it's not in the cupboard or the fridge. Also, if like me, you take sugar in your tea or coffee, you try and reduce the amount, maybe by a quarter of a spoon at a time, and so that the change in the taste is not so dramatic and you're more likely to stick to it. And it's one of my really difficult ones, this, because I love my sugar. Likewise, change from semi-skimmed to 1% milk might be easier than, say, just going straight to skimmed. And when eating out, try swapping some of your side dishes, so maybe opt for salad rather than fries or a jacket potato. The chances are you're going to slip occasionally, particularly when faced with parties and birthdays and meals out. Just don't let that sabotage you completely. Remember, all or nothing is not the way to go. And if it's just occasionally, it's really not going to make that much difference. So denying yourself is more likely to make that change arduous so that you want to give up. What is important is that your diet is healthy for most of the time. Another thing that you might want to give a go is the 80-20 rule. And that's where you eat well for 80% of the time and then you allow that 20% lapse. Now, that's not to say you should deliberately go off plan for the 20% of the time, but it could be helpful if you are prone to that all or nothing thinking. Now, if you're familiar with NLP, you'll know that there are a number of techniques that you can use to help permanently change your eating habits. Neuro-linguistic programming can be very effective in helping you reprogram your mind, bolster your motivation, resolve, and recondition your desire to make those poor food choices. So one technique that lends itself to this is the swish pattern. Now, it was developed to work on reprogramming your mind so that you're able to stop a particular behaviour, such as in this case, altering your relationship with food. The swish pattern is a useful technique to help you address unwanted behaviour responses to specific stimulus by changing key submodalities. Compulsive or obsessive behaviour, like eating certain foods, are often linked with a trigger or cue image. Identifying your trigger and then associating another action instead allows you to alter your automatic reaction to something more positive instead of the previously ingrained negative automated response. Done correctly, the new response becomes something as automatic as the previous behaviour, so much so that in the end you won't even have to make it as a conscious effort. To learn about the swish pattern, I've just added a link below because I did another video of swish pattern in detail completely devoted to that technique. So another NLP technique that's available is anchoring. This is a tool that helps you create alternative states of emotion. The premise is that you imagine a life event that creates an emotional response you'd like to replicate. Concentrating on this mental image, you use your 5 senses, you construct and visualize what it looks like, how it sounds, the sensations it evokes. You then select an anchor, which can be auditory, visual, or kinesthetic, such as pressing your thumb and forefinger together, and you associate this action so that it's bound to the emotional state that you created, so that then latterly you can summon it at will. Anchoring can be really effective when faced with some of your biggest food weaknesses, whether that's chocolate cake, buttery treats, or creamy desserts. Creating an anchor that associates something like a pinch on your hand, for example, the determination to say no. You can rehearse the anchor,
imagine being faced with that temptation and then construct that visualization that depicts you successfully resisting the food that you want to avoid.
Rather than going through the whole of anchoring on this video, I've added a link underneath so that you can access a free NLP guide which includes anchoring so you can understand it more fully. So the last NLP technique I'm going to talk about is a really useful one for dieting, and it's the concept of modelling. Modelling is the study of how successful people think and behave, and entails adopting their mental strategies, thought processes and feelings that they experience when they are exhibiting a specific behaviour. By emulating a successful person in this way, and I have to say it isn't that straightforward, so it probably is most effective if you've got the help of a coach with you, but it can educate you to think the same way and find yourself getting similar results. Now, the particular model that helps those trying to change their eating habits is called the naturally slender eating model. This embodies the behaviour of people who are naturally slender, people who don't have to diet and don't struggle with their weight yo-yoing, endlessly gaining or losing weight. And if you decide to try the naturally slender eating strategy, you just need to be aware that you'll not change your eating habits overnight, especially if you've been diagnosed with an eating disorder. So it will require some work on your part and some patience with the process. Usually the naturally slender eating strategy will require you to make intentional choices with what you eat, how often you eat, and how much you eat in one sitting. You must be intentional in listening to your body so that you can decode the clues that it sends to you correctly. Now, naturally slender people go through a completely different process when it comes to eating, one that they're usually unaware of. When they feel hunger pangs, before acting, they analyse it. They might ask themselves something like, am I really hungry? Or am I just thirsty? Do I really want food? Or is this just a response to something that I maybe saw on a TV a moment ago? When a naturally slender person decides they're hungry, they still analyse first. They think through the food choices and consider not only what would taste good, but also how they'll feel after eating it. Even after a food is finally chosen, naturally slender people continue to pay attention to their bodies and crucially stop eating long before they really feel particularly full. Unsurprisingly, this behaviour tends to avoid weight gain. It's infuriating as it can for those of us who have to diet. These people just naturally eat in a way that means they stay slender. The key to this is to train your mind and body to think like a naturally slender person. And if you can master this, it will begin to alter how you think and feel. Your eating habits will begin to change and your weight will fall. To reiterate, using the naturally slender eating strategy will require that you make intentional choices with what you eat, how often you eat, and how much you eat in one sitting.
So you may well find that analysing if you're hungry, you could discover that you're actually just bored or thirsty. And in that case, consider keeping something to drink close by. And when you do feel hungry, try taking a few sips and see if you're still hungry afterwards. If it's about boredom, then keep some low-calorie snack foods around. This will help with that boredom. Watch for triggers that normally lead you to eat. If you, say, for example, tend to reach for a snack at, say, mid-morning, then change the habits. And apart from drinking instead or eating, maybe go for a walk or do some kind of exercise. It's important to find a substitute behaviour to avoid the old habit, because if you don't, you just leave a sort of mental and physical void, and that means you're more likely to slip back to the default behaviour. Just a cautionary note at this point, NLP can lead to very positive changes in your life, but it is important that it's practiced correctly. Without proper training, it is possible to cause even more roadblocks and potholes in your journey. Well, I hope today's video has given you a few tips, things to try if you're battling to lose weight. Exercise is always beneficial, but you know what? Changing how you eat is what makes the most difference. And if you have any tips or views on dieting in general, I'd love to hear about them. So by all means, please just leave some comments below. And if you think you might need a bit more support in losing weight, and you imagine that life coaching might be something that might help you, or you're just looking to make a general change or learn to deal with mental blocks or maybe limiting beliefs, then please use the contact link that I've added below. It allows you to make a 30-minute appointment with me for a preliminary obligation-free chat. Don't forget, for more in-depth information on anchoring, along with a couple of other NLP techniques, you can just download the free guide that I added by using the link below. Don't forget to click subscribe to get this YouTube channel, because I post each and every week, and I hope you can join me again next time with help and advice on leading a more fulfilled life. In the meantime, thank you for your company, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.